Gertrude Stein was born on February 3, 1874 in Allegheny, Pennsylvania. She was the youngest in a family of 5 children. She was born to Daniel and Amelia Stein, who were both German Jewish and well-educated. When Stein was only 3 years old, her family relocated for business reasons to Vienna and then Paris. They eventually returned to America in 1878 and settled in Oakland, California. Once in Oakland, Stein and her older brother Leo formed a strong bond through much of their early lives. Stein's mother, Amelia, died of cancer in 1888, and her father, Daniel, died in 1891. Stein was only 8 years old when she made her first attempt at writing. Reading Shakespeare and books on natural history became an obsession for her. In school, she was fascinated with the structure of sentences. Stein once said, "I suppose other things may be more exciting to others. I like the everlasting feeling of sentences as they diagram themselves." After Stein's father died, her eldest brother Michael took over the family business and moved the family to San Francisco. In San Francisco, Stein became intrigued by the theater and opera. When Michael arranged for Stein and another sister, Bertha, to live with their mother's family in Baltimore, Stein continued on with the passion. Stein attended Radcliffe College from 1893 to 1897. She studied psychology under noted psychologist William James, with whom she developed a special philosophical relationship with. After leaving Radcliffe, Stein enrolled at Johns Hopkins University to study medicine. While studying abroad, the desire to travel overcame Stein while in Italy, Germany, and England, and she decided to dismiss the idea of a career in medicine. Stein never received a formal degree from either Radcliffe nor Johns Hopkins. Stein lived in London with her brother Leo for a period of time. When Stein returned to America to live with some friends in New York, she wrote her first novel, Quod Erat Demonstrandum, or QED. This work would somehow be lost for over 30 years and not published until 4 years after her death under the title Things as They Are. In 1904, Stein moved to Paris with Alice B. Toklas, who would remain her partner and secretary throughout her life. They lived with Stein's brother Leo at 27 Rue de Fleur. Stein and Toklas didn't return to the United States for over 30 years. 27 Rue de Fleur was Stein's first real and permanent home since leaving Oakland in 1891, and one in which she would remain for more than 40 years. Leo had become an art collector, and Stein was soon to follow. Their home became known as the Salon, with paintings by Picasso, Renoir, Gauguin, Cézanne, and many others covering every inch of it. It also became a gathering spot for many young artists and writers, including Henri Matisse, Ezra Pound, Pablo Picasso, Max Jacob, and Guillaume Apollinaire. Stein also formed many literary friendships with writers as diverse as William Carlos Williams, Duana Barnes, F. Scott Fitzgerald, James Joyce, and Ernest Hemingway. It was to Hemingway that Stein coined the phrase "the lost generation." Stein stated, "Every man becomes civilized between the ages of 18 and 23. If he does not go through a civilizing experience at this time of his life, he will not become a civilized man. The men who went to war at 18 missed the civilizing. All you young people who served in the war are a lost generation. You have no respect for anything. You drink yourselves to death." Stein used this term to describe the people of the 1920s who rejected America post-World War I values. Hemingway would take Stein's phrase and use it as an epigraph for this first novel, The Sun Also Rises. The novel's popularity has allowed the term "the lost generation" to stay associated with writers of the 1920s. Stein's first book, 3 Lives, was published in 1909. By 1913, Stein's support of Cubist painters and her increasingly experimental writing caused a split with her brother Leo, who moved to Florence. Stein's next book, Tender Buttons, published in 1914, showed the profound effect modern painting had on her writing. It is an elliptical prose poetry journal of her life with lover and lifelong companion Alice B. Toklas. These small prose poems, images, and phrases come together in often surprising ways, similar to Cubist painting. Stein continued to have her works published throughout her life. Some of her most influential works were The Making of Americans, How to Write, The Autobiography of Alice B. Toklas, Being a History of a Family's Progress, and Stanzas in Mediation and other poems. In December of 1945, Stein began to complain of severe abdominal pains. These pains were later diagnosed as colon cancer. On July 19, 1946, Stein was rushed to the hospital. She made her will on July 23rd and left the bulk of her estate to Toklas. On July 27th, while being wheeled into emergency surgery, Stein's last words were spoken to Toklas. What is the answer? With no reply, in that case, what is the question? Rose is a rose is a rose is a rose. Loveliness extreme. Extra gaiters. Loveliness extreme. Sweetest ice cream. Pages, ages, page, ages, page, ages. This is an excerpt from Stein's poem, Sacred Emily, written in 1913. We think that this poem is another way to say it is what it is. Stein says that in the time of Homer or of Chaucer, the poet could use the name of the thing and the thing was really there. As memory took it over, the thing lost its identity, and she was trying to recover that. I think that line, "The rose is red," for the first time in English poetry for 100 years.
Why do you think Gertrude Stein uses comparison with a rose?
Because the rose is a symbol of love.
Do you think this poem has significant meaning even though it is only 4 lines?
I think it had significant meaning to her.
What do you think is the poem's deeper meaning?
That I'm not really sure of.
Do you think she was trying to say something through this poem? If so, what?
Yes, that love means different things to different people. Beauty is a rose to some people. Beauty is gaiters to others.
Okay, thank you.
A red stamp. If lilies are lily white, if they exhaust noise and distance and even dust, if they dusty will dirt a surface that has no extreme grace. If they do this, and it is not necessary, it is not at all necessary. If they do this, they need a catalog. This is a prose poem from Stein's Tender Buttons. Tender Buttons is a book of Stein's poetry arranged in 3 sections: objects, food, and rooms. We think these poems reject the restrictions of form that Stein associated with patriarchal poetry. Critics think this book is a set of romantic praises to Toklas. B.F. Skinner created controversy by asserting that Tender Buttons is an experiment in automatic writing, a topic Stein studied during medical school. I ought to be a very happy woman. Premeditated meditation concerns analysis. Now this is a sentence, but it might not be. Premeditated. That is meditated before meditation. Meditation means reserve the right to meditate. Concerns. This cannot be a word in the sentence because it is not of use in itself. Analysis is a womanly word. It means that they discover there are laws. It means she cannot work as long as this. It is hard not to while away the time. It is hard not to remember what it is. With them they accord in the circumstances. This is an excerpt from the poem Sentences and Paragraphs. We think that Stein is trying to tell the reader a hidden message in this poem. A critic says, Stein invites us to wonder about what lies in the gaps between her rhythmic networks of words. In the excerpt from Sacred Emily, Stein is using repetend. Repetend is the irregular repetition of a word or phrase at various places throughout a poem. When Stein is repeating rows, pages, and ages, this is repetend. In the poem A Red Stamp, Stein uses imagery. Imagery is a language that evokes one or all of the 5 senses: seeing, hearing, tasting, smelling, touching. Stein talks about the color of a lily and how it can dust a surface. In the excerpt from Sentences and Paragraphs, Stein uses verse. Verse is a line of poetry. Stein uses verse to make random lines of poetry come together.